Breakfast at Mom's. I'm Mom, aka Sandra, and these are my daughters, Candace and Alyssa, and these are my daughter-in-laws, Brooks and Felisha. And we want to welcome you this week to our online community of women where we come together every week to discuss things that we all face. And this week, I get to be the moderator, and we are going to talk about overcoming setbacks. I guess because I am the oldest, I have had more setbacks than all of you. However, the setbacks that we have been through, y'all have walked through them as well with us. So we have had some huge setbacks in our life. We've had businesses burned down. We have had cancer 3 times. What else have we gone through? We've lost businesses in our lifetime. So I guess I'm kind of the expert on overcoming setbacks, I guess. I hope overcoming. But I think some of the hardest things when you go through them is figuring out, how do you keep going? And keeping going is the key. And I have to say, honestly, we should be doing breakfast Dad's because I feel like he does this so much better. Yes. Like that man can be hit and he is like, remember for all of you who are, in my era, weebles wobble, but don't fall down, right. Or the punching bag that you would punch, the punching bag that you would punch and it would be weighted and it would bounce back up. That is my husband. He can get hit and immediately go into crisis mode. What do we need to do to get this fixed and to keep this moving? So
I think he's taught that all to us too.
Yeah.
I think we've all.
Sure.
He's definitely taught that to me because I would rather be the ostrich and stick my head in the sand or live by Felisha's philosophy in life. Ignorance is bliss. And so I would really rather do that. I remember diagnosed the 3rd time with cancer. I literally wanted to go get in my bed and cover my head and say, I cannot do this again. But I had to know that this is not how I'm going to be able to face this. So I guess the first question is, how do we cope when we are hit with something that setbacks, something we have to overcome?
I feel like I had some setbacks in my life of when I was single, and you go, you have a boyfriend and you move in and then y'all break up and then you got to go find a whole new place to live in your whole new life. And
I'm just going to move you over a little bit.
You guys can hear me a little better. But that's it. You have to move to a new home, start all over, have little things that you can only fit in your car and drive to a place and you have to start all over. Yeah. All the bills and you feel like, okay, I have to do this again.
Yeah. Right.
I have to do this again. I can't get my stuff to, none of this stuff is mine, especially having, sleeping on the floor in a blow up mattress because nothing that was at that apartment was yours.
Right.
It's heartening. It's depressing.
So how do you cope?
So
with
when I
these
cope,
things?
I first have to look and go, you got to get your stuff together, Candace.
Candace gives herself her own pep talk.
I do. I have to because I'm like, that person did it. I always think of the women who had children on their own and they survive and they're a single mom going 3 jobs. I'm like, if they could have children and I can do it. I'm by myself. That's how I feel. Coping with it I want to get in the pity party and I want to go to, get upset. I'm like, but what good would that do? Yeah. So I think I had to give myself a pep talk and then pray to get through those things. Yeah. And that was my coping.
And it is okay to have that pity party moment. I would tell, you've done a lot of setbacks in your health through your whole lifetime. And I remember telling you, Brooks, today you can be mad. Today you can be pissed. As Trevor says, you spell that PISSED. And so, you can be frustrated. You can be sad. You can be all those things today. Yeah. But then tomorrow, you cannot allow yourself to stay there. You've got to get yourself up and do that and know that one of the things I would say to myself was, okay, I can get through this hour or this day or maybe the next 5 minutes. And then you extend that time and you extend that time and you extend that time. Before you look back, it's been a week later. And I have a saying that I've learned in all of this, and now we all say this. In 6 months from now, it's going to look different. A year from now, completely different. So you keep focusing on that. And I would tell myself, I can do this. And that, I think, is something that you have to tell yourself, because if not, your mind is going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? And then we start playing the what if game that I like to call that. What if this happens? And then this, and then this, and it all snowballs. So instead, telling yourself, I can do this.
Yes.
If I can do this the next 5 minutes, the next half hour. What are some of the ways that you
So I'm a lot like Dad in that I'm an action plan person.
Yeah.
And I think it was instilled to me at a young age from my parents, and especially my mom. When I first got sick, she was the one, she just took action.
Yeah.
Immediately of like, how is she going to fix this? How is she going to get me in front of the right doctors? How am I going to, so for me, it was just, that's just what I did.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of, Brayden and I talked about it a couple months ago, like not realizing I had a follow-up doctor's appointment from some stuff that I just recently went through. And this doctor started explaining how much of a risk it was, one of the last procedures I did, and how much like they were all nervous and scared of the things that could have happened.
Yeah.
And Brayden and I had no clue. Like we were just blissfully going through. Right. But we had, because I just had an action plan of like, I'm not stopping. I was like, we got the news. We said, okay, well, what's next? What do we do?
Yeah.
And that's what was put in front of us. And we did it without even question of like, all right, we're moving forward. And I think that that's kind of just how I've handled things. And it was just taught to me. And I think for me, it works wonderfully because I am the type of person that could bury my head and get there. And then we've had that conversation of like, you can be sad for a second, but don't stay there, because I could stay there for a while. And so moving works best for me.
So think about it. Can setbacks be opportunities in your life? You know, has any, all of us really, you know.
Or maybe like reevaluate, like, okay, this setback, but like, let me reevaluate this now since I have this opportunity.
Once you get through the shock of what you're in,
then you can have that, that look on it. And that's always so good.
Looking at it.
We were talking about like coping and how do you cope with things. I have what's called an OCD mind. So I fixate on the problem and I make the problem just worse in my mind. And I'm reacting based off of the story I've made up in my mind.
I have a great book for that.
And it's great. And it actually
help. I'm alone with my
it
mind.
actually helped.
I think we're going to sponsor Breakfast at Mom's.
It helped me a lot. That and Joyce Meyer and reading about like our minds and taking control of those thoughts and learning like, okay, I can, talking to yourself positively. Like I can do this. I can get through this, because I'll go like, I shut down completely. Like I can't work. Like my mind is just so focused on my problem. And so I'm having to learn how can I take those thoughts and move them out of my mind.
Yeah. And doing things, because you have started running.
Yes, I love it.
So cute.
Okay. But that has helped you
very much
change and shift things by going to, and even Trevor says, exercise helps him cope with everything that he has to deal with.
Well, you can't think when you're dying.
True.
All right, so I'm going to write a third copy of my book, and I'm going to do a chapter called "You Can't Think When You're Dying," and it's going to be about exercising when So you have to find those.
Be dedicated to me.
Absolutely,
chapter to Flame.
Absolutely, Felisha.
I think for me, so I compartmentalize. I do that very well when
you
in
are good
seasons
at that.
Of special like stress or there's an absolute.
You were saying that with Trevor, like you were telling Trevor when I was diagnosed the last time.
So for me, it's not allowing the what if game, and I do that by saying I will not allow myself to go into what happens if she doesn't live, what happens if it gets worse, who's going to take care of like I will not allow myself to go there until we're told this is happening. And so that's what I had told Trevor. I'm like, you cannot let yourself start this. You've got to compartmentalize, like kind of like you were saying, get through today, get through picking up Chasen, get through without that like what if in the back of your mind. And I think when you start to shift that focus, you can allow yourself, even in the middle of really bad seasons, to see either the light at the end of the tunnel or the silver lining of it all. Kind of like you were asking us, like, do we see good things, opportunities coming? I think even in the midst of a tough season where you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't see the end of this, taking time to go, okay, maybe you're unsure about your job. Like maybe there's uncertainty here. Well, my goodness, now I am just so blessed that I have this job. Like it's making me realize things that maybe I took for granted, or maybe it is a health thing. Well, in the middle of this, I'm starting to think through, well, look at all these years that I've had, and moving forward, I am not going to take this moment for granted with my kids, with my spouse, with my own health. It's kind of finding those moments. And for me, the only way that I can really do that is putting those things in a box, like allowing myself.
And you will grow through those things. And you will, if you do kind of look back and look for those silver linings, look for those things of, when we had the fire, we had to get a bigger place. Well, we needed a bigger place because we needed bigger equipment. We needed, so not that I would want to go through that to get to that, but it sped our plan up. And that's what we had to do.
And then I think too, I mean, we all have stories either as a family or individually. And something that you taught us growing up is you not only stand on the word, but you stand on the things that you've already been through. So a saying I've had, I honestly think I started talking about it in college when there was a lot of chaos going on in our family life. But I would always say, if God is faithful, and he always is, then we will get through this. And so that is like a phrase that plays in my mind every time we get a bad report is...
You texted that in the family group chat. What, 2000?
I don't even know.
Time ago.
16, 17? I literally have it screenshotted.
Oh, wow.
Well, because it reminds me, it's so funny. It's a science hypothesis, if then becomes, because that's what you're taught growing up. And I don't know what it is about just saying that. Okay, if God is faithful and he always has been, then we will get through this. And I mean, you could say because he's faithful, but that's the thing, is just kind of reminding yourself of everything you've been through in your life. And if you've not ever had like an earth-shattering thing, I promise you have friends that have, you have coworkers who have, that can say like, okay, Trevor says this all the time, you have already lived through the worst days of your life. So just keep going through them.
It
just keep
reminds
going.
me of the song by Elevation Worship, Do It Again. Anytime I go through any setback, I play that song because I'm like, okay, God, like you've done it before. You'll do it again. And I stand on that.
So that song was, I played in Kingston's NICU room. So when he was born, I played it all through my pregnancy with him because it was a rough pregnancy. And then he was in the NICU for almost a month and a half. And that was the song that was played every day over him. And so we were on a car ride recently and played it, and he knew the words immediately. And I was like, all right, this is the faithfulness of it right there. But it's so true. It's like it solidifies that, that point there. And then I wrote, overcoming challenges builds resilience, and it prepares us for future obstacles.
That's good.
So
it is true. So how do we be positive in the middle of it? Now, I'm not saying you're going to be positive the minute that this happens. You're going to have to go through a process. You're going to go through the shock, the anger, the sad, the mad, the everything that you feel.
For sure.
Right. You're going to allow yourself that. And it doesn't mean that only one day you're allowed. There were times that I would have to call my best friend Lisa and say, today I am just mad. I need to be mad. I don't want you to give me a pep talk. I don't want scripture. I don't want anything. I just want to be mad today. She's like, okay, you come on and we'll just be mad. Now, we didn't stay mad long because we would be talking and laughing after that. But how do we stay positive in the middle of that? Like it might not be right in the beginning, but how do you?
I think like what you were saying, you got to grab your people. I think that I can remember, I don't know if it was the first time, I want to say it was the first time you had cancer. We were not allowed to tell anyone.
Right.
You did not want people to know because you didn't want people speaking over your life that something could happen.
True.
But I can remember the difference in shift the next time when people knew. I think that there is good in that of like not telling and not allowing people to speak negatively over your life. But I also think that you've got to have people that you grab to for the prayers, for the being around, but also for the days where you're like, I want to skip life. I just want to go and shop, or I want to go to Disney, or we're going to watch a movie, or I just want to cry, or like you've got to have those people, because that, I think they bring the positive out of the middle of that situation.
Said that because the first time that I was diagnosed, the first thing I did was booked a trip to Disney, and we went to Disney because that was my happy place at that time.
In college, texting you, I had like a horrible week, and I was like literally asking my mom for like life advice, like what do I do? And mom texts back, you should just skip everything and go to the movies. You literally had texted me that, and I was like, this was not the advice that I was looking for. I'm looking for like an answer. And you were like dead serious. You were like, you should just leave everything and just go somewhere, go to the movies, go hang out somewhere. And I was like, that's true. Now, did that get me into some trouble? Because that became a bit of my mantra in college, a little bit, but listen, we had the degree. It didn't
more than
one.
Right, because that helps you with the positive. Yes. That helps you get your mind somewhere else. Go do something. Find a friend. Go do something where you're not talking about it and you're not sad about it. You just don't want to think about it. Get your mind off of it some.
I think you also have to, because you're in it, right? Yeah. You're in it. Celebrate the small ones.
Yeah.
So you may not bounce back completely from the setback, right away. It's going to take a process. Yeah. That's hard. But those little wins, those little things along the way.
Which is really good, but also consumption. What are you consuming?
Yeah.
I remember during a season when I was single and I just wanted to be married so bad. Yeah. And I would listen to, I love country music, and all they talk about is love, and I love Hallmark. But there was a season I could not watch or listen to.
I was going to say, if you were still watching Hallmark, you were in trouble, because that is going to feed that. That is so good.
I watched the same thing. I did not watch Hallmark until I met you. Like, maybe I'll watch Hallmark and see how this goes, because I was really over it at the time. I was just over, I don't want to see anybody. I'm not going to meet that person. I don't want to watch a love story, because that's just going to make me more like angry, but just frustrated. I'm like, ah. And then I started watching it because of you. I'm like, all right, this girl says something. She says this has something. And I'm like, ooh. Then I kept texting her like, how about this guy? He's eligible and he's my age.
Oh my gosh.
But I would go on Instagram. Guys, though. It was on the Hallmark.
Candace actually reached out to one.
Oh,
and I was dying laughing.
Yes, she did. And
this is the truth coming out, Colby. There you go. It's your wife.
This was BC before Colby.
Yeah, it was before Colby.
So
but I
back
did. I was
on topic. Felicia's point is, what are you allowing in your eyes and ears?
Yeah.
What are you consuming? Make sure that you're shifting that, so that you're not feeding into whatever this setback is. Yeah. So, and then you could come to that point too, where you might need professional help. I've always been the person that everyone came to for the advice, for the counseling. And when we went through, after, cancer and a fire, and then we had a huge mishap at work, and I was overwhelmed. Like, I found every little thing was setting me off. I was angry. Rick and I we would start fighting, and it was like, it had nothing to do with anything other than this was so overwhelming. And I'm always the first to send everyone when I, like, okay, you obviously need more than me trying to help you. You need professional help. And we have a woman that we absolutely love, Kathleen, that we send everyone to. Kathleen, if we're watching, we love you so much. So Dad said, I think you need to go see Kathleen. My first reaction was, no, I'm the helper. I don't need the help. And then realizing, I do need this help. I do need to go and speak to someone to help me get through that. So if you can't get what you need from talking to some people that you trust, people that can, listen and do that, there are going to be times that maybe you need to go get that professional help, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we had a previous episode where we really talked about that more, so go back and watch that episode. But I'm so grateful that society has changed to the point of where we're recognizing that this is okay to be able to go and to be able to get professional help, to talk to someone. And I mean, nowadays you can even do it right online.
Yeah,
you can
You can do it through text.
Oh, and through a text? Yeah. So
Video chat.
there is ways to find people that are professionals that can help you if this is so overwhelming that you just cannot seem to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, as they say, to be able to go on that. Anybody have anything to add?
I think you're hit it right on the,
Right.
I think honestly, everybody should have somebody,
Yeah.
Everyone needs a Kathleen.
Everyone needs a Kathleen.
But I think when you have a setback, like that should be your number one of like just watching yourself. Like if you feel like you can't pull yourself out of it, or if it's something that's affecting you every day, that you just need, one more, the right person to be able to give you the right coping skills, things along those lines. When things just aren't working, that's when you kind of have to, take that step back and say, okay, it's time.
And a third party who doesn't have skin in the game.
Right, because they see it so clearly. The saying of you cannot see the forest because of the trees, it is so true that when you're in the middle of it, you cannot see what's happening. But somebody back here, go ahead, you were saying.
Exactly right. I was going to say, my saying is, you sit where I already messed it up. It was in my head. But anyhow, but yes, like they see things that you're not able to see, and they're able to provide a perspective.
You see where you sit? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the two words. But they give you great advice and practical steps. Like I'm practical. I need to know what is my step.
Yeah. So our steps were what were our steps? Being able to don't play the what if game. Give yourself grace in the middle of it. You're going to have times, you're going to have moments, and it's okay to have those. It's just not okay to stay in that, because that's where the slippery slope happens and you go off the deep end. And then if you surround yourself with people that can, or seek out advice from people, even find somebody who's gone through what you've gone through. It is so nice when somebody has gone through that, because you know what? In our minds, we almost don't feel like we are failure because they've been through that.
So I have a funny story about today about talking about like, I need to know that people also go through what I go through. So on the PTA website for Chasen's school, there was a post on the Facebook group this morning of this lady, and she's like, is there a way to contact the school to get the accounts like locked for our kids and only a certain amount spent on the lunch account? And she's like, my son is buying 6 bags of chips, 2 drinks, and he's doing it. She put $100 in at the start of the school year. It's only been 3 weeks. He's down to $27.
Oh, wow.
And I literally, as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh my God. And then I start reading the comments. I'm like, I'm not alone. Like,
my child is not the only one eating everything out of the...
Can I tell you that my son is one of the ones that got one of those chips?
Oh, so they're giving him out. They're giving him out.
My son wasn't sharing. It was all for himself. Yeah. So now we pack our lunch, and I will not even put money on the account. I'm like,
nope.
Don't know. We did that last year. I'm not fighting that battle this year.
Yeah, find a way to not fight that battle. So I think we've covered it. So if you're going through something, we really encourage you to really just try and take some of the advice that we had in this. I always say this: we are not professionals. We're just professionals in what we've been through. And so just maybe something we said today will resonate with you. But if you need to go and see somebody past that, then please go see somebody and get the help that you need so that you can get through whatever you are going through. So until next time, have a wonderful day.